Welcome to This Explainer. We're diving straight into a fascinating, entirely true story today about a village with, well, a pretty bizarre and literally freezing habit. It's a perfect clash between deeply rooted old traditions and some harsh modern environmental realities. So grab a warm blanket because, honestly, just thinking about what these villagers go through every single night is going to give you the chills. And that brings us to the question at the absolute heart of today's story. Why on earth would an entire community, men, women, kids, and the elders, willingly choose to sleep outside, shivering in the bitter winter cold, instead of staying inside their cozy, warm bedrooms? I mean, it totally defies modern logic, doesn't it? Well, to figure out the why, we really have to look at how different generations view the exact same situation. Section 1. The Stubborn Roof Tradition. Every single night, families in this village gather on their flat roofs to chat, catch up on the day's gossip, and eventually they sleep right there under the open sky. But there is a massive generational divide here. For the elders, especially the mother-in-laws, sleeping on the roof is, it's romanticized. They genuinely believe it gives them fresh air, builds immunity, and most importantly, keeps the family tradition of togetherness alive. But for the younger daughters-in-law, the bahus, women like Payal, Ritu and Neha, oh boy, it's a completely different story. They are absolutely miserable. They're not getting fresh air, they're dealing with freezing winds, thick swarms of mosquitoes, the suffocating weight of heavy blankets, and just complete agonizing sleeplessness. And to make matters worse, imagine being a new arrival. Take a newlywed bride named Palak. She gets what you could call a frozen welcome. On just her second day in the village, right after cooking for the entire family, she's ushered up to the freezing roof to sleep. Imagine being in her shoes for a second. You're lying there wide awake, teeth literally chattering, staring at a village full of people who are somehow comfortably snoring away. She genuinely thought her new in-laws had completely lost their minds. Section 2. Failed Methods of Rebellion. So what do you do when your straightforward complaints are totally ignored? Well, the frustrated Bashus realized they needed a secret plan. The elders kept scolding them, insisting the fresh air was good for them. So the women formed a secret alliance and mapped out this hilarious step-by-step rebellion. Step 1. Play fake ghost and witch sounds on their smartphones in the dead of night to create a haunting. The goal was to spook everyone indoors. But that failed because the elders literally slept right through the ghostly wails. So they escalated to step 2. Throwing a fake rubber snake at the sleeping elders to cause a massive panic. And oh man, did it cause a panic. The climax of this brilliant prank hit when a village elder named Ramesh felt something land on him in the pitch dark. He grabbed the fake rubber snake, let out a terrified scream, yelling that a snake had come, and hilariously hurled the rubber snake right onto his sleeping neighbor, Mahesh. Mahesh wakes up, screams just as loudly, and absolute chaos erupts across the rooftops. It was a master plan, but it completely fell apart. Why? Well, once the lights flicked on and everyone caught their breath, the terrifying serpent was quickly exposed as a harmless rubber toy. And instead of moving indoors for safety, the stubborn elders fiercely scolded the pranksters for making such terrible jokes. They proudly doubled down on the tradition, declaring they had slept on the roof for decades without a single real snake bite, and absolutely no silly prank was going to force them inside. The Bahos were just utterly defeated. Section 3. Spreading illness in the village. Now here is where our story shifts from a lighthearted family comedy into a very serious health issue. That bitter cold began to take a massive toll. It wasn't just about shivering anymore. Severe coughs, high fevers, and sick children started rapidly spreading across the village. Even one of the Bahu's young children fell severely ill and needed bitter medication just to make it through the day. And yet, the older generation adamantly refused to blame the cold air. They stubbornly clung to their belief that the roof was a healthy environment, just brushing off all this widespread sickness as a normal part of the winter season. Section 4. The Doctor's Scientific Warning. Things finally come to a head when the village doctor, along with his junior, arrives after analyzing some pretty alarming medical tests from the residents. He calls a meeting with the village head, the Sarpanch. The doctor explains that the winter air they love so much, it's no longer fresh. It is now polluted air. It's heavily contaminated by parali, which is the seasonal burning of crop residue, along with emissions from countless modern vehicles, air conditioners, and factories. The doctor makes it crystal clear that breathing this thick, toxic smog at night is highly dangerous. You see, the elders weren't exactly wrong. Their tradition was perfectly healthy in the past. In the old era, the environment had lots of trees and pure air. The air quality was genuinely fresh and clean, and sleeping outside actually did boost immunity. But we don't live in the old era anymore. In the modern era, the environment is filled with crop burning, cars, and AC units. The air quality is toxic, and the health impact is no longer a boosted immune system but severe coughs and fevers. The doctor then delivers this incredibly sobering reality check to the silent crowd. He tells them they are sleeping in pollution and making their bodies more toxic instead of giving them rest. Think about what that actually means for a second. Nighttime is when the human body is supposed to recover and heal. But by forcing themselves to sleep on the roof in the modern winter smog, they were essentially forcing their resting lungs to process dangerous pollution all night long. They were literally poisoning themselves in the name of tradition.
Section 5. Sensible End to Tradition.
So, how does this stubborn generational clash finally resolve? Well, armed with undeniable scientific proof and the authority of the doctor, the village sarpanch makes a monumental decision. He officially decrees that the village will no longer sleep on their roofs during the winter months. The health of the entire community simply had to come before an outdated habit. Let's look at the key takeaways from this fascinating story. First, traditions are important, absolutely, but they must evolve when the environment changes. What worked 50 years ago might literally be toxic today. Second, modern pollution has unfortunately erased the health benefits of fresh air sleeping in many parts of the world. Third, it took objective science and medical logic to finally resolve a deeply emotional, stubborn family conflict. And finally, on a much lighter note, the Bahus, after suffering through freezing winds, thick mosquitoes, and those failed rubber snake pranks, finally get to sleep peacefully inside their warm, comfortable beds. I want to leave you with a final, provocative question to ponder. Should we blindly follow old traditions when the environment around us has changed so drastically? It's something to deeply consider about the routines and habits in your own life. Are you doing things just because that's how it's always been done, even if it no longer makes any sense? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always question your environment.